So as a hobbyist, I've been working with things like Lightroom, Photoshop, tons of different video editing programs for years. It's been a long time. And along the way, I find these tools that make life just a little bit easier, a little bit better. This Wacom is one of them. I absolutely love it. I used to sit there and fill stuff in on Photoshop and Lightroom and stuff. And it would take hours. With this, take the pen, and you can actually feel it through. It's great. Saved me a lot of time. This Logitech MX3 also has saved me a ton of time. I absolutely love this. I use this daily. It's got wheels on the side. It's got buttons here. You can actually push this, do gestures. It's just such a great tool. But none of these have saved me more time than the piece I'm going to show you next. This Loupedeck that I bought years ago. Now I bought this for about $350 years ago. It was expensive, but man, this thing was amazing. You'll see streamers use things like this, but it's also very, very handy with video editing programs, Photoshop, Lightroom. I use this a ton, and it has saved me so much time. Let's talk about it. Okay, so today we're gonna go over this, but please like and subscribe and help me out with that algorithm. This is my typical workstation. My mouse, of course, always on the right, Loupedeck always on the left. Why? Because I love to hold it and actually twist things and hit the buttons that I need while controlling the mouse. I use that keyboard, but I do have another one. I also have the Logitech, just don't use it quite as often. But I might start because it also has shortcuts on that. Now let's talk about the Loupedeck and why I love it so much. Okay, let's talk about the different versions of this that are available. There's 4. So first, there's the S. This is what it looks like. Very simple, not a whole lot to it. What's missing compared to the Live is that the Live actually has another set of windows here that you can actually swipe up and get more controls. And these buttons down here. It's not a whole lot, but I think it's enough to upgrade. Definitely worth it. So again, this is the Live, Loupedeck Live. So it's very simple. As far as size, let's take a tape measure and measure it. So as I mentioned, this is my go-to. This one is roughly 4 inches by 6 inches. Very, very thin. The actual control is about 1/2 inch thick. To the top of the buttons, you're looking at about 1.25 inches. So not bad at all. The actual stand comes separate, so you can actually connect this, travel with it. There are 2 holes in the back here, which fit into this. You pop it in, click it, and there you go. You have a little stand. I don't know if you guys can see that very well. So you have a little stand. Sits at an angle. It's perfect for me. There is one size bigger. That one's actually called the Loupedeck Plus. It's got a lot more control over it, or a lot more controls, as you can see from the picture here. A little too much for me. This is more than enough for me. You may want that one. That one's also a little pricier. You also have the Loupedeck CT, which is probably great if you're doing grading and a lot of video stuff. So a little, not necessarily something I need, but if you do a lot of video editing and a lot of coloring, it's probably the go-to. Or if you do it professionally, it's got a lot of control over it, a lot of knobs, so great to work with. I really like this one because I use it mostly for Photoshop, and this is more than enough. There's no connections really other than one USB. Let's see if I can, USB, and it's a USB-C. There you go. It's a USB-C. It comes with a USB-C cord. I'll show you that. It's a fairly long cord, so it is braided. One side is straight. The other side is actually angled. Let's see if you can see that. So when you plug in, it doesn't get in the way. Very, very light. Weighs practically nothing. I mean, it's just a digital MIDI controller. So now that we talk about the different versions, let's go into my favorite, the one this video is about, the Live. Let's plug it in so we can see some buttons and lights. It is actually powered by USB. So once you plug into the USB, it connects and it loads up. So it gives you 4 windows across, 3 windows down. You also got the windows on the side there, which tell you what these knobs are for. So the really great thing about this is the knobs not only turn, but you also push them and they click. So you can actually set these to be some sort of dial as well as an option to click. Down at the bottom, you can set these to different things, different windows, different, whatever. It's a MIDI controller basically, so you can set this up and program it to whatever you like. You can set these up to different settings or different windows, so every time you click 1, your settings come up, 2 different settings come up, 3 different settings come up, as well as everything here. You can program everything, so it's completely custom. You can create your own little icons and profiles and things. Once you actually have all that done, this little window I mentioned, which is not actually on the basic version of this, if you have your dial set, it'll tell you a little window what it is. You can swipe up and it'll give you a second option, and you can add more. So you can have third option, swipe up again, have a third option, swipe up again, have a fourth option on what these actually do under the same control window. So it's actually really, really versatile. I accidentally clicked it and music came up. So that's how basic it is. It's simple, but you can do a whole lot of stuff with it. You can make it as complicated or as simple as you want. So to control this, you actually do need a program from the company Loupedeck, which recently actually was purchased by Razer, and I believe Razer is owned by Logitech, if I'm not mistaken. So it is under construction at the moment, so we might see some changes and rebranding of this stuff. But for now, you can actually go onto the Loupedeck website, download their program, and actually use that to control every single thing this does, as well as the different options and different windows. Completely custom, or you can actually download different mappings or pre-done maps. So it'll actually tell you, you don't have to set this to like zoom in, zoom out. It'll all be pre-done. And then you can go from there and modify it the way you like. So they have things like maps you can download for like Photoshop, Lightroom, all the major programs, as well as like streaming programs. They just have a ton of stuff available. I downloaded some, and then what I did is I modified from there. But there were other things that I tried downloading and didn't like, so I just kind of created my own map of everything. For example, Final Cut Pro. What I do with Final Cut Pro is probably that's not as complicated as some other people. So I did a much more simple map. There's not a lot to it. The other thing, when you push something, you can actually set it so it vibrates. Let me see if you can hear this. I don't know if you can hear that, but it did vibrate. So you can actually set it up. So yes, you can set it up so it vibrates, so it gives you a little feedback, or you could just not do it. These buttons do not actually push in. They are just touch, just like your phone. So would it be better if they were actually a little more tactile and you can actually feel it? I don't know, maybe, but it doesn't bother me. It's very simple. Actually, I kind of like this because when I travel with it, I'm not afraid of ripping stuff out. So let's get a little more in depth and look at the programming of this thing. So here's what I love about this. So I will do my best to record this because I got to record the screen and I got to record my Loupedeck. So I'm going to try to sync this up for you. A few things you'll notice. This is actually changing depending on where I click on my screen. You can open up different programs or even websites. So you can actually click anything and it'll open that thing. Of course, the thing that I use the most is Lightroom. So I have my Lightroom, Photoshop, and a few different websites. I do have some controls for music, so I can easily do that. Control for the sound. I even have controls for like brightness. So that's all set up as my general. Once you go into Lightroom, things change. This is actually something I set up. It's completely custom to me. You can actually download pre-custom stuff, something that somebody else made, and it's a great way to start. But once you kind of play with it a little bit, you start realizing what you want, and then you can kind of create what you like. So this is what I actually have on Lightroom. I can choose when I'm in my library. I can set it up one way, In develop mode, I set up another way and it automatically changes for me. So I don't have to keep going back and forth. I can make everything custom. Now this is something you can do with every program, website. You can even have it set up for different pages for the same program under different things. Like on Photoshop, library changes to this, develop changes to that, map changes to this, which I haven't set up yet. So to make things easier for me, under library, I can easily click on things, change the color up to things I've previously selected, take it off, you can star rate it. So you can do all this stuff. I do this when I'm going through photos and I'm trying to decide what I'm actually gonna use, what I'm gonna edit, and what I'm not gonna use. Once I got all that set up, I can actually click number 2 and it takes me to develop. So these are presets of different areas. I'm just talking about Lightroom, but you can use this for streaming. You can use this for different Photoshop. You can use this for video editing. Imagine being able to kind of scroll back and forth on things and click and select. Each one of these actually clicks as well. I have this set to full and off. And then this one, I can turn it, zoom in and out. And then once I've zoomed out too much, I can click it and it takes me back to 0. So that's how I have it set up. I have temperature, highlights. These are things I always use in the beginning. Also, I can switch this color if I wanted to. Now here's a really neat thing. I can change absolutely everything. Like I said, it's preset, but you can change stuff. So for instance, you'll notice that my red is actually red. My green is actually green. But these are not colored yet. So I can actually go in there, go back to my screen. I can highlight it. Here, you'll notice that there's a tag here. I can actually add a picture myself and actually just kind of create whatever you want out of it. Or just by clicking on this, you can just change the background. So that I'm gonna go to yellow. I don't want something too bright because it gets annoying. I can also change the color of the drawing or the symbol. There are some icons here that you can actually kind of work with. I'm gonna keep this white though. You can even call it whatever you want. You could change it. You could change the font or you could change the font color, which is awesome. So I'm gonna save this and you're gonna notice it pop up right here. Boom, completely custom. When you're editing tons and tons of photos, it's really nice to be able to copy, change what you need, exposure, clarity, you know, whatever it is that you're doing. And then once you have that, you'll notice, especially if you're doing weddings and stuff, copying this, normally I would have to right click on it, and then I'd have to go to develop settings, then I have to go to copy settings, and then I choose what I want. Well, I can actually preset that in here, which I already have. So I can go just one click, copy. I could choose another photo, and this is my paste. So it takes that exact, and you can choose what you mean by exact. You can leave things out or put things in, presets or settings, your develop mode, and you can set it to your next picture. That alone saves me a ton. But highlights are some of the things I do a lot. And I also do a lot of exposure. So, and of course, that's not exactly what I'm gonna do to this picture, but just to give you an example. The really neat thing is that, of course, you have different keys, so you can set up different pages for this. Now keep in mind, you can actually click on these, and that's another option. But the really neat thing is if you need more than 6 dials under this mode, you can still set it up. So you can actually click on this. I only have 2 for now. You'll notice right here it says 1 and 2. So anytime I scroll down or up on here. It goes back and forth between those two. But I can add a third, so I can change that, I can add things. This is great when you're doing things live and you need to turn something up, turn something down, click on things. It's just amazing. So you have these, plus you can add more to these wheels. So use your imagination. That's just Lightroom. You can do this with any program. You can actually set up your custom keys, and I will go into that, but you can imagine this being great for like video editing, not only Photoshop and Lightroom, but also DJing, like live DJing or live music with Pro Tools or like Ableton Live. You can set this up to do a lot of stuff and just completely customize it to what you need and just create, which is the best part about this. I used to be a DJ, and I can imagine, you know, just setting up the cues on one page, setting up effects on the second page, and just, I mean, limitless. You can set up whatever you like. You might even be able to find some pre-done controls for you, but setting up your own stuff would be kind of nice. You can use your knobs for effects. Also, streaming. I mean, how can you forget? You can use this for a lot of streaming programs and just completely control your whole streaming stuff with this right by your side. Effects, you know, sound boards, you name it, whatever you like. That's why I really love it. You can really create stuff. You can really do a lot of stuff live, and it's just really is limited. So last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to create a custom key or a custom knob and how to change it from how to change the push button control as well. So we'll just go over that really quick and then do our final things or close out. Okay, so this is the Loupedeck program. You go onto the website, you download this, and actually you control pretty much everything from here. You'll notice on the right side, there's Marketplace. That's where you can actually go and download. Well, 304, but click on here because they were just purchased, so it's a little challenging right now. So you can download somebody else's Premiere Pro settings, DaVinci settings, or whatever it is, and really just work off of that. Or change once you download that, you can actually, it'll be preset for you, then you make changes that you want. But as I mentioned, we're going to do something custom. So this is my Photoshop. On the left here, so Loupedeck, on the left here, you'll select the actual system you have. So I have the Loupedeck Live. Here, you'll select the program that you're going to adjust for. So I have two Photoshop settings. This is my custom one. This is the workspace. So workspace being this here, this workspace being this one here. So we're going to go with our regular workspace. So I've already started here. I use the lasso tool a lot, zoom. This is my Photoshop stuff. Undo, redo, layer mask. This is to reset the mask colors. I know it's very simple, but it's nice to just be able to push it. This is turn grid off and on. So I have a few open spaces here. I'm going to set this one. So to set a custom thing, what you want to do typically is head over here, and here's it gives you some pre-done stuff. So if it's moving the cursor, multi-toggle thing, a mouse click, or if it's running a command, a dial. So if we're setting one of these up, we're going to go to setting up a dial. Keyboard short stroke. So that's typically what I'm going to do. So let's say, for instance, on Photoshop, I'm going to do a brush. So I want to be able to, I already have it set here, but I want to be able to do it here as well. So I want to make this button be a brush. So what I'm going to do is go on the shortcut, and it's going to be a keyboard stroke because I actually know that in order to use the brush, you just press B. So I'm going to click on keyboard stroke. Down here, it'll tell you what you want to call it. So let's say, oh, actually, let's call it brush. So this, you can actually type in what it is, but I typically like to do this because if your keyed stroke actually needs for you to hit Command Shift or something like that, you can do that here as well. But I like to use this. Select your numbers, letters. So I know B is the shortcut in Photoshop for brush. So I'm going to save that. And it's going to create it here. So once it's created, I can actually drag this to here. Now that is actually my key brush. I mean, sorry, my key for a brush. Now it doesn't look nice, so I'm going to go back over on this side, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit it. So I can choose any of these. It doesn't have a whole lot of icons. This doesn't really work at the moment because, as I said, Logitech just bought them, and so the website is giving me a lot of 304 errors. So you can actually change the background. You can change the icon color. You can even change if you see it or not. You can also change what it's called. So let's say instead of just brush, I want to call it paintbrush. I could change how big the letters are. I could change the color the letters are. And if I actually wanted to, let's say I don't want this, I want it to create my own little icon. I actually did create a folder where I just downloaded icons from the web, from the internet. And I have a paintbrush here. So I'm going to use this icon to load here. So I'm going to go to this here. It's going to go browse. Pictures. And here I'm going to go with, here's my little brush, select it, and it became my new little tool. So I can move this around, you know, if I wanted to. I can, let's say, shrink it, change the background to be white so it matches. I can move my letters up to the top or anywhere I want. I can rotate them. I can even get rid of them. So you can do just about everything. Let's do this. Move that up here. And once you got what you like, hit save. And now that actually goes to this. Drag it, drop it on there. Oh, I forgot to hit save. So hit save and it changes for you. So on my actual system, this now popped up. Let's say, for instance, I want to do this, but I want it here because I want that brush when I push it here, or I want to also be able to rotate it and tell the brush to be larger or smaller. So let's do that here. This one's going to be we're going to start with the dial. Now, the adjustment here, I'm going to call it brush size. So now that we have this, we're going to call it brush size. We are going to, let's see here. So this is if we dial to the left. So if we dial to the left, I want this to be an open bracket, because what that does is that actually makes my brush smaller. And this, I want it to be a closed bracket, because that will actually make my brush larger. So once we have that all set up, call this brush size. Save that. It's under here, under custom, brush size. I can actually drag this over to here, and that's it. So now this is actually set up so when I turn this to the right, it makes my brush larger. When I turn it to the left, it makes it smaller. Now, the brush tool that I had set here, I can actually use that, drag this over, drop it on there as well. So now when I push this button, it'll actually take me to my brush. When I turn it to the right, it'll make the brush larger. When I turn it to the left, it'll make it smaller. Pretty darn neat. So in conclusion, this thing is amazing. I love it. I use it more than anything else. I use it when I edit photos, when I edit videos. Pair it up with my M3 mouse. It's amazing. I just can't explain how much easier it makes life. I used to take hours and hours editing some photos, and now it's cut down in half, something like that. Little by little, I am adjusting and adding more programs to this. So I'm going to start actually adding Excel functions. So that'll be kind of nice. I can actually program different things from Excel, like formulas, and just make my life a little easier. So I'm going to start doing that. And I can't praise it enough. This thing is awesome. If you're performing live as a DJ or a music creator, or if you edit videos, photos, or any of that stuff, I definitely recommend it. 10 out of 10. It's simple, but it's amazing. And now that Logitech purchased it, I'm sure we're going to get some pretty amazing updates. They started rolling out some stuff, smaller versions of this that you can actually use. So I expect to see some pretty amazing stuff from them. Maybe additions to the program, which will make it a lot nicer. But to travel with this, I did find out that Loupedeck does sell this. It's a little travel case. I'm going to order it because I do travel with this when I edit on the road. Sometimes I'll go on vacation and I make videos and I'll post them or do something with them. So I am going to buy that case. It's a little pricey, but probably worth it so I don't damage this. I'm excited. So hopefully you guys are doing well. Thank you. Happy New Year's. And please like and subscribe, and we'll see you later.